and your sister?
Oh, okay. Well, when she was the ED, she had 3 children. Well, one of them passed away, but at the time he was 9 years old, and it was December 16th, 2001 when he passed away. So it was really just a bad time. We had presents for him under the Christmas tree and everything. Um, but as a usual staff member, I think whether it's public or Sea Org, yeah, my sister basically was on staff 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. She'd get there at 9 a.m. and usually leave at midnight if she even left at all. And because she was in that position of being the executive director, sometimes she would have to leave her children home, and she didn't want to. And she would say things like, I can't find a babysitter. So my oldest nephew was 14, then my youngest one was 9, and then my niece was 7 at the time. And Scientology, and I do believe, and this is how I know Chris Shelton, because he says he was my sister's senior in LA.
He says that about everybody.
Well, apparently this is how it was explained to me, is that Los Angeles is in control of all the others, like Arizona, Texas, whatever. So he would tell me that that my sister had to report to him each week. So she was the executive director. I guess she had to report all her stats for the Phoenix org to him. That's what he told me. So it kind of makes me wonder if he's one of the people that told my sister, well, your children, this is what she was told. Your children are not the greatest good for the greatest cause, or greater good for the greater cause. I've heard it both phrases used.
Greatest number.
Yeah. And so they would say, well, you only have 3 children and there's 6.5 billion people on Earth, back then. So they would say your 3 kids are not the greatest good for the greatest cause, because you need to save the planet. And there's like almost 7 billion people on the planet. So their house, the house burnt down. She was in the middle of divorcing her husband at the time, who was a Scientologist. And so a space heater, I guess, was next, like a couch or something, and the house caught on fire. And my nephew and my niece, they escaped. But my youngest nephew, I guess for whatever reason, because this happened at like 2 a.m, he ran back in the house to save his, they had 2 dogs. So he went in to try to save them. And he died of smoke inhalation, and the roof collapsed on him. But it was Scientology's policies of, having to be, you have to be on post. And I think when you're someone like an executive director, I've been on staff before 2 times, but it was like low level stuff. But you know how it is. Like, and for someone like my sister, she had to be on staff, about 16 hours a day. And so the local news was covering this, because anytime there's a house fire in Phoenix in the wintertime, that's like a big news deal out here. I think because we're the desert. So I remember coming home from work, and there were 2 news vans parked outside of my home. And I already knew about his death. And when I saw the news vans, I'm like, oh shit, like I've never had to talk to news people before. And as soon as I got out of my car, they were like, asking me like, do you know who Tyler Reeves is? That was my nephew's name. And I'm like, yeah, I'm his aunt. And they're like, oh, so you're the sister of his mother then. So where was she? Why wasn't she home? They wanted to know what she did for a living. And in the back of my mind, how we're trained to believe that the news media, what are they, the merchants of chaos, that whole thing, like the news is bad. So part of me was afraid. I'm like, oh my God, I shouldn't be talking to these people. But another part of me was, I really didn't want to talk to them, because I just learned that he died, and I was very shooken up. So I told the news media, I'm like, listen, I just found out that he passed away. Can you please let me have some time to process this and grieve? And amazingly, the news people were like, okay, no problem. And they walked away, which usually they're not that